what we've got here, right, OCR High School, again, these are OCR questions, but I'm going to redevelop them and show you how you'd approach it with AQA as well, so that you're ready for your exam. So it's a computer system to store data about students. The system records good conduct as positive number and poor conduct as a negative number. A true or false value is also used to record whether or not the letter has been sent home for each incident. And it says here, write an SQL statement to select the student name field for all records that have negative points. So when you're answering these questions, you really need to be pulling out that key criteria. Now, the 3 statements that you always need for any SQL when it comes to extracting data is select, helps if I spell that right, from where. Now, first thing you've got to do is select the field. You always start with the field. So I want, in this case, I want to select the student name. Okay. So that's the student name field. Done. All right. For all records. All right. So the student name for all records. All right. So I've got the student name from, which table is it? Conduct. So the table's called conduct. If you have a look up here, the table was called conduct. So you select your field from your table, conduct, where they have negative points. Okay. So what you've got to do is then say where points are less than 0. Okay. Now that would be okay for OCR. But what you might get asked to do in an AQA question is you might be given a table, and then you might have been asked, and I would like you to write some notes on this, you might get asked to add something new to this. Alright? So if you are asked to add to the table, then what you're going to need to do is insert. Alright, so this isn't answering the question, this is showing you how you can add values. Alright, insert into conduct. So you put the table name. So that's your table. So, okay. But then what you've got to do is you've got to name your fields. Alright, so we're going to go for student name. Detail, points, and letter sent. So that's telling you where they're going, but then you need to say what values they are. Okay, so insert into table, values. Then imagine I've got to add a new student in who has been talking in the lesson. Well, then what you do is make sure you've got the field names right. Okay, so I would put Ray talking. That's obviously an integer there, so I'm going to put -1 for talking, and that is a boolean, so I'm just going to put I don't want to send a letter home, false. Okay, so that is how you add data. Obviously that's not part of that question. I'm trying to help you envisage what it would be like for AQA as well. Now there's another question down here. Select the wildcard that could be used in SQL to show all fields. What it means by a wildcard is a star. Alright? If you want to select all from the database, you should be using a star. Alright? That is what your wildcard is. Next, we've got a new table here. A table called results. Alright? So, we've got our table here of results. And it says, do a query of all fields from the students that take art. Well, it says all fields. If it says all fields, it wants a star. If it says specific fields, to what you would have to do, I'm going to show you another way of answering this, is you might say student name subject and grade. Yeah? So, because they are all the fields that are in it. There's two ways to do it, but that's the common way of doing it. Then you've got your table that you're doing it from, which is called results. And then the criteria is subject equals art. Now I'm going to show you some AQA tips. Alright? So, you may, my voice cracked, alright, you may get asked this way of doing it, alright? So, I might want to delete all the students from this table that are taking art. Well, if that's the case, what you'd need to do is say delete from, oh my gosh, bad spelling, delete from, you say the table, and then the criteria where subject equals art. So if you need to delete something, all right, you will need to say the table, and then you've got your criteria. Now what that will do is that will remove a record, like a whole row, yeah? So basically, what that would do there, if you said delete from results, where the subject is, that would delete this one, this one, this one, and they would be gone from the data completely, okay? So that is to delete items. I know it's not a question, but I'm trying to help you see other ways of doing it, all right? I might even decide that the art teacher has changed subject. It's no longer art, so it's now applied art. So what they might do, if they need to update every record, okay, they could say update, again, results. You've got to say what you're going to set it to once you've updated it. So I'm going to set it, set subject equals applied art. So that's saying what you're now going to change the data to, but then you've got to give your criteria again. You're going to say where subject equals art. Okay? So when we do an update, we say, again, we say what table are you updating? What are you changing it to? Change to, all right, what was it? Yeah? So that's how you work that out. Now, moving on to some more questions here. OCR Tech, they've got a shop, and what they want to do is they want a query here to identify the correct SQL statement to select the item code and item name. So there's two pieces of criteria. For all items that have a price of over 60 or more. 60 or more means greater than or equal to 60, right? But let's look at this first. It's breaking down the query. Well, let's have a look at this. Select item code and. This is wrong because and is only used in your where condition. So you should never use, so that's wrong. All right? This is wrong because, again, that is a criteria of using like two conditions. It acts like an and. So here, notice if you need to select fields, you always separate them by the comma. So this is the correct way of doing it. Which table is it from? Well, let's have a look. What's the table called? Table stock. From table stock. All right, that's wrong, that's wrong. Table stock is right. where they are equal to or greater than 60. All right. Our next question. All right. A vending machine stores the quantity of items in a table database called items. All right. Now, it wants you to write a query to display the item code for all the items that have fewer than 10 in stock. So that's less than 10, and that's item code. So in select from, you're going to select the item code from the tables called items, but they don't help you out with this bit, where stock is less than 10. I don't put speech marks around that because it is an integer. You should not put speech marks around it if it is an integer. Just always remember that. Right, we've got another table here. All right, working our way through these. But I'm also going to add some AQA tips again in a minute. Now it says select data types for the following fields. Well, let's have a look at that. All right. Come down a bit. Nights is a number, so therefore we should have an integer. All right. I spelled integer wrong. Sorry, capital with a G. Room is a string. Therefore, it should be string. All right. Give a name for one field that would be Boolean. Well, look, Boolean is true or false. So you should have had stay complete. Okay. We're almost there for these questions, and then I'm going to add some more value to this. Rather than writing this whole query out, I'm going to show you where the errors are. It says it wants you to basically correct this SQL statement. You should never use the word all. If you are selecting all fields, either name the fields or use a star. The table bookings, select all fields from table bookings. That's correct. Look, table bookings, that's correct. Good. The word if should never be in a query, ever. That should be where. Alright. But also it says that stay more than one night, so therefore that should be greater than 1. Okay, you can write that out yourself, alright? But it should be select star from table bookings where nights are greater than 1. That should have been your answer. Alright. Last one, and I'm going to go over some bits of theory. We've got a table called events here, and it says write a query that displays the sensor IDs of the door sensors, alright, of the door sensors that have been triggered more than 20 seconds, okay? So, let's have a look at this carefully. We are going to need to select first, so I'm going to write out my select. I'm going to space this out from and where. Alright. Now, this says it wants to display the sensor IDs. Don't get it twisted. It doesn't want the door it doesn't want you to print out. It just says the sensor IDs. So, what you do is select sensor ID, right? From the table is called events, and it says for door sensors more than 20 seconds. This is where you've got two criteria. So I would say sensor type equals door. But there's two pieces of criteria here, which is why we use an AND to join those two true conditions together. And what's it? More than 20 seconds. And length is greater than 20. So that's two pieces of criteria that you would be expected to include there. All right. Now, one thing I wanted to demonstrate to you, because some of you may not be aware of this, but AQA published this online. It is an AQA document that goes through SQL for you. All right. So this is on the SQL website. If you look, not SQL, the AQA website, and it gives you all of the key terminology at the back to even help you with exam revision, such as what is an attribute, a database, the entity, a field, what is the foreign key. So you've done a lot of work with, you should have done a lot of work with relational databases. So this is why I just wanted to demonstrate something to you. All right. Relational databases have a link, and sometimes you may need to select information from two different tables. Here's an example from this document. All right. You can see here, this selects, you've got the table name, yeah, so you've got your table name followed by the field of information. What this is doing is selecting information from two different tables, but what you do is you have the table name dot field, table name dot field, table name dot field. So that's taking information from two tables, all right? From, you've got the tables here, yeah? So you got from this table, and this table. What this does there is it finds the link. So I can't get access to the information in the other tables unless I use the link. So I've got the link linking the student table and the student teacher table together. So that's my link, and I establish that by using an equal. So that finds that match in the other table. So if you need to find data in another table, you put the table name and the field, table name and the field, and compare them using an equals. Then you have the criteria. All right. Again, that's another link there. All right. So this is worth going back to this document, having a look at relational databases to see how you link. The last thing I wanted to go over with you is we have order by. So if you needed to display the data in a specific order, you say order by and say what you want to order it by. Remember, you have order by ascending, which is here, order by ascending, or you can put descending, okay? All right, so you've got ascending or descending, which is DESC, okay? So you've got two different ways of doing your order there.